Waiters and waitresses, what is the weirdest conversation you overheard while serving a table? Story 1. I was closing late one night and had a couple of really high teenagers come in who could barely sit up in the booth and ordered $80 worth of food for 2 people. One of the guys ordered an iced tea and asked for Splenda with it. I brought out his drink and set it on the table along with the sugar caddy. This kid just stared at it for a minute and then asked which packet was Splenda. I told him it was the yellow one. What color is yellow? He finally asked. I pulled a packet out of the caddy and handed it to him and walked away before I couldn't hold my laughter in anymore. As I was walking away, he turned to his friend and asked, "Can she tell how high I am?" They tipped me a quarter. Story 2. I had a man come in for dinner. I work in a 4-star restaurant, sweating bullets from the time he sat down. He and the lady were obviously a couple, and the entire staff guessed what would happen, especially after he ordered a $300 bottle of champagne to start the meal. She looked happy, but worried throughout the entire meal. When the dessert came, he got down on one knee, and I heard her say, "Please don't." Those 2 words stopped my heart. I cannot imagine what this poor dude was going through. They had a hushed conversation, and she ran out, literally ran, while he sat there, still holding an open ring box. He finished the bottle of wine they had ordered during dinner, and pretty wasted, turned to me and asked, "Why won't she let me love her?" Just like that. Like I am going to give him some kind of answer to explain the complex and painful thing that has just happened. I told him that sometimes we fall in love with the wrong people, and the only people worth anyone's time are the ones who give back what they get. He finished the bottle, paid his tab, and walked slowly to the parking garage. I never saw him again. Story 3. I used to wait tables at a Bob Evans that was located across the street from a nursing home. Whoever chose that location was a genius because old people love the shit out of Bob Evans. I had an elderly couple who came in every day for lunch and ordered the same thing. It got to the point that I would have their meal on the table by the time I saw them crossing the street from the window. They usually only got applesauce and banana bread and mashed potatoes. One day the old man came in alone after a week of absence. He never said it, but I knew she had passed away. He still ordered for her and let the food sit on her side of the table every day, and I cried more than one time while delivering it. I hope one day my future husband loves me that much. Reply 1. I worked in retail and had a similar experience. Every Sunday they came in and browsed our home decor for hours. This went on for a couple of years. Eventually, just the husband would come in and look around. All of us were afraid to ask about his wife. This one time, he actually purchased a striped rainbow pillow, and he said his wife was recently wheelchair-bound and was simply sitting outside in the mall. Our store was too hard to navigate, and that the pillow would brighten up the chair. After a while, he stopped coming in. We all worried about him. He started coming back a few months later and told us his wife passed, and he just wanted to keep up their Sunday tradition. We all bawled when he left. I want that kind of love someday. Story 4. Last night was pizza/trivia night at the restaurant I serve at. I'm helping a couple in their mid to late 50s with pop culture questions against restaurant policy, and we're all laughing and having a great time when the wife leans over to her husband and says, "She's so cute. Can I ask her to come home with us?" While I'm standing there. I laughed it off and got a $40 tip on a $60 check and their phone number. Edit. No, I did not call them back. It's just not my thing. I'm in a committed relationship with a wonderful man, and jeopardizing what we have for $40 is dumb. They are regulars of mine, so Wednesdays should be interesting now. The wife was the really pushy one, too. Story 5. I used to work at a bakery/bistro type place, and once there was this table of 4 or 5 ladies talking quietly to each other. I overheard one of them say something about an orgy, and another responded, also about it. I walked past their table again to try and overhear more, and realized they were talking about 4G. Story 6. I work at a local Greasy Spoon, and there was a young couple in their early 20s eating breakfast. At one point, the girl dumps a pharmacy's worth of pills on the table and starts sorting/counting them out. When I walked by to check on them, she started acting super paranoid, and as I walked away, I heard her say to the guy, "Maybe we shouldn't be doing this here. There are cameras." And she proceeded to move all of the pills back into her bag, and they left. Got a really nice tip though. In my opinion, the young couple should have been more careful about where they were handling such a large amount of pills. It's definitely not the best place to do that, and it's no surprise they got paranoid. At least they realized it and left. Plus, you got a nice tip. Story 7. While I was working at Jose's Crustacean Hut, I was serving a well-dressed, seemingly happy couple, and they ordered a steam pot for 2 and a side of fries to share. Right after I drop off the food, before I'm even out of earshot, the husband confesses to having been cheating and that he wants a divorce. She starts bawling her eyes out to the point she's doing the whole gasping for air between sobs thing, and my manager immediately rushes over to try and see if it was something she could fix, because a full restaurant on a Saturday night is not the place for a screaming, sobbing woman. In the end, the couple stayed for 3 hours, didn't touch any of the food, and just had me throw it all out. Story 8. I work as a cook in the most popular Thursday night bar at my school, but I also have a window for customers to order from, and I chat with them quite a bit. Needless to say, almost all conversations, people verge on the side of weird. However, some take the cake. My favorite was 3 girls who came up to get some French fries, and while they were being made, started to chat, mostly about boys. As the fries were being cooked, they included me in their conversation and tried to get my opinion on how to find the right guy, and which guy they knew was the hottest. As their conversation progressed, one admitted that the only guy she wanted to was one of the other girl's brothers. This became the facet of the discussion as she began to drunkenly go into detail about how hot he was, why he was so hot, and why she wanted to him. Meanwhile, the second girl stood there awkwardly with a look of shame on her face while her brother was being picked apart by 2 of her best friends. Well, not the weirdest story I have, definitely one that will stick in my brain. Story 9. I am not a waiter anymore, but about 6 years ago, I was working at an Italian restaurant in California. A couple came in for lunch and ordered 2 iced teas and the 3-course special, appetizer, entree, and dessert, each, maybe $25 total. The portions were smaller. After that, it's like 25 minutes when the guy gets on one knee and proposes to the lady. Keep in mind, this is like 11:45 a.m. on a Tuesday. Anyway, she covers her face, and the guy spends 20 minutes on one knee trying to convince her to say yes. It was the most uncomfortable thing that has ever happened to me. I had to go drop off the check while the guy was still on his knee because he called me over. They left, and they came back 2 months later, and were engaged. So it worked out. Wow, it's not every day you see a marriage proposal during lunchtime on a Tuesday, but I guess love knows no bounds. It must have been quite uncomfortable witnessing the guy on his knee for 20 minutes, trying to convince her to say yes. The fact that she had to drop off the check while he was still down there must have been an awkward but memorable moment. Story 10. More awkward and sad than weird, but it was a conversation between a man and his 10-year-old son. The man was berating his son over his golf game. I work at a country club, so this isn't exactly unheard of, but the dad was being super intense with his criticism. He was calling his son a quitter for wanting to stop playing and telling him that if he quit now, he'd always quit everything in life. The kid sat there and listened numbly for about 10 minutes before I came over to refill their waters, and my presence caused the dad to pause in his speech. As I'm walking away, the kid says, "Evan doesn't make me play golf. He tells me to do what I think is good for me." The next time I'm on the floor, I see the dad is just heartbroken. So I asked a coworker who had been there a few years what the situation was. Apparently the man and his wife were divorced and his wife remarried. He had his son on weekends and they'd golf together. The kid was apparently pretty good but had developed other interests. I could be way off, but I see it as a father who is trying to connect with his son but being a bit heavy-handed at it. The thing that gets me is that the guy doesn't come in with his son anymore. He comes in alone and drinks a lot at our bar. He doesn't say too much. My stomach drops every time I see him. Story 11. A man proposed a swinger lifestyle to his wife, but she did not like it one bit. And there I come to bring them their drinks in the middle of the conversation. Story 12. I'm a cook, really a chef, but I don't like the term. But one of my servers came back to the kitchen with a 1,000-yard stare on her face. I ask her what's wrong, and she just says, 41. meaning booth 41, which stands for 2 tables from the kitchen. So I act like I'm making my rounds in the dining room, and I get near 41. It's 2 nice mid-40s looking people dressed business casual from what I can tell. The woman is drunk or high, or both, passed out with a biscuit in her beer and smells like piss. A plate full of our most expensive dinner in front of her untouched. The guy with her smells like he shit his pants and has never bathed. Mind you, they're clean-cut looking people. He's happily chewing away, mouth open, on crab legs, mashed potatoes, and steak, slamming his beer and chopping away. I just give a smile and nod and keep on walking. I make it near the bathrooms, turn around, and just watch them. He proceeds to poke her with a crab leg and says, "Can I have your ass when we get out of here?" She drunkenly mumbles what sounds like, "The fishing ferry won't fit up my ass." I look behind me toward the kitchen, and all my cooks and quite a few servers are piled around the guard station, just holding back laughter and looking at me. I look at them and say I have no thought what to do here, and about 10 minutes later, he finishes his food. She wakes up and downs her beer with a biscuit in it. They pay their tab with a 20% tip. I had to close that corner of the restaurant for the rest of the night because the smell wouldn't leave that area from them. I even took the booth seats out back as soon as they left. Their stink somehow soaked into the wood of the booth and lingered in my restaurant, well past closing time. I made my cooks stand around the booth and smoke after closing in hopes that the cigarette smoke would smell better than they did. Story 13. Well, I've heard a lot of opinions, useless but I remember one lady saying she wasn't going to tip my coworker because the food she ordered was too expensive. Edit. Background info, the woman ordered her food before her friends were there. Her friends came in 20 minutes later and ordered. She then proceeded to demand free food because all of their food didn't come out at the same time. Being extremely rude, she gave my coworker, a 5-year vet at this restaurant with rave reviews, the hardest time ever. And it was a birthday gathering. When the other servers heard what she said about the tip, we said, all right, there's no tip anyway, so let's make it worth it. We went out to sing happy birthday. Her free ice cream was served, 1 scoop half melted in a bowl. We clapped, out of time, all started the song at different times, and no one smiled. Most liberating night of my life. We rarely ever do stuff like that. So worth it. Story 14. It wasn't so much weird as it was surreal. This fella came in with, I assume, his wife. He had scars on his face, almost as if they were part of a reconstructive surgery, and he was in full military uniform. He was sweating buckets, and his wife was rubbing his back, telling him it was going to be just fine. He gestured at me to tell me something. In about 15 minutes, a woman is going to walk in with a little girl. She's going to be wearing a blue flower dress. Don't tell her I'm here. She thinks she is just having dinner with my wife. Sure enough, 15 minutes later, a woman in her late 60s wearing a blue flower dress, carrying a little girl, shows up saying, I'm here with my daughter-in-law, and she should be upstairs. And when she went upstairs and turned the corner and saw him standing there, she broke into tears, and the little girl jumped down and yelled, Daddy! That was the longest family hug I had ever seen. It was the most tear-jerking moment I had witnessed in a long time. I had to take a break to finish sobbing in the supply closet. Wow, it must have been an incredible experience to witness this emotional reunion between the man, his mother, and his daughter. The suspense of waiting for the woman and the little girl to arrive, knowing what was about to happen, must have made it even more memorable. Seeing the family hug and the tears of joy really highlights the deep emotions that such moments can evoke. Story 15. I know I'm late, and it's probably not what you were looking for, but I wait tables in an assisted living home, old folks home, and have one table filled with men with dementia that have the same 1 or 2 conversations every day. First, they introduce themselves, then they either talk about how one of them had a cousin who is his age and was more or less a brother to them, or about how the union saved everything. We used to work for $1 a day. And it was hard work, too. We'd still be coining it today if it weren't for the union. And if you didn't join, you were called a scab, and they'd burn down your house or car. Those were the days. Story 16. Most recently, a guy in his early 20s was having lunch with his grandparents, and as I went to drop off the check, he got all upset and said to his grandma, "I shower 3 times a week now, geez." The same day in the bar, I heard a girl end her story with, "And that's how I learned what midget tossing was." My favorite was a few years ago, and it was a brother and sister in their 70s. I had waited on them before. They always sat in the same spot, away from people and near the kitchen. I come out of the kitchen and turn the corner, and the lady is giving her brother the bird, screaming, "Fuck you, Morty! I should have smothered you when I had the chance." Story 17. I was working late at night on a slow Thursday at the local pizza shop as a driver. A man came in to look at the menu board and asked me if his wife could use our bathroom. The place was takeout and delivery only, so we didn't have public bathrooms. I got the okay from my manager, and the guy motioned through the window for her to come in. The manager shows her to the back, and the guy says he doesn't see anything they want, so he is going to wait in the car. When my manager came out, he said the woman was not fine and was incoherent. When we looked out the window, the guy was hauling his tail out of the lot. He had picked up a mentally challenged girl, abused her, and dropped her off. We called the cops, and they took her to a shelter. Super creepy and sad. Story 18. This happened the other night at a 3-top walk-in. One of the men looks like one of those sleazy lawyers with an oversized suit and enough mousse in his hair permeated to the possibility of letting yet another hair fall out. The other 2 were soulless, and you could see it through the doped-up slit-for eyes of the man and the tight, expressionless face of his wife. They had waited 2 minutes too long and grew rather impatient. "Hey, how's everyone? 3 Grey Geese and tonic. Don't forget the limes." I wanted to laugh. As I take off for the bar, the husband throws his fat finger in the air, letting the ambient light ignite the golden ring, choking his circulation. "I have a question." "Yes, sir. What is it?" I swing over to his side as he slides through the menu, pondering the imposed question through his addled mind. "Hold up," looking up at me. "What are you still doing here? I'll have the BBQ bacon cheddar burger," his wife stammers, interrupting. "Whoa, hold on here." After what felt like a minute, he located the BBQ bacon cheddar burger on the menu. "Hold up, you don't even like BBQ. Why in the world would you order that?" His wife glares at him. Her eyes grew in magnitude. Her searing hot rage is deflected by his incompetent shield of negligence. "I don't?" No, you hate BBQ. He races his finger over another item. "She'll have the mushroom burger." She averts her gaze into my innocent, inquisitive spirit. "I guess I'll have it and throw her menu into my arms." The lawyer was easy, since he just wanted onion rings. Story 19. One time I was serving a large family, and what looked to be like the eldest brother, looked maybe 30 tops, but had a cane, was acting weird. I go to take their order, and he starts yelling at his little sister, maybe 12, and cussing at her about how she ruins everything, while the rest of his family is just trying to order. The guy storms out, and the mom orders for her crying daughter. About 5 minutes later, he comes back, shamefully orders his food, and then they continue to eat and talk like nothing happened. They left a nice tip, though, and the other sister stacked all of the dishes super neat in the middle and wrote, "You're an amazing waitress," on the napkin. And then I had these 2 guys that weren't even at my table, but every time I walked by, they would look at me and loudly say, "Bust." Well, it sounds like quite a roller coaster of emotions at that table with the large family. It must have been uncomfortable and concerning to witness the eldest brother's outburst towards his youngest sister. It's a relief that he came back and the situation seemed to calm down, allowing them to continue their meal. Story 20. So I'm way too late, but we have a regular come in, always with a different woman. They're always young and always very attractive. One day I walked past his table while they were having coffee after the meal, and there were a bunch of magazines like Zoo on the table. We start thinking, okay, does this guy do interviews for this thing here? Then the next time I overheard him talking about expectations the girl has, reassuring her that it's not uncommon for them to be uncomfortable, but that he's never had an unsatisfied customer or boyfriend who always enjoys the gift. Turns out he's a photographer and he does erotic fantasy shoots for girls to give to guys. and he takes them out for lunch first to chat because it makes the subject more relaxed and more likely to have a fun experience. Please leave your story down below in the comments. I would absolutely love to make a video about them in the future. And also don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, peace.